Hi, I'm Milton Rendell and welcome to Real News Friday. Sales continues to flow with 1,080 in the last week. Stock levels, sales were down about 17%, but keeping in mind there was a large amount of land sales last week and they're down considerably on the previous week. So that obviously is in line with land releases at different times. In terms of stock, 7,982, that's down 1% on a week ago. 2% down four months ago, but it's up on 2% of a year ago. So really about where we were at the same time last year. Rentals, 2,345, still down a little bit to where we were, but again, we know that it's been fairly buoyant. Now, I have recently been to a Real Estate Institute of West Australia meeting, and the whole pile of information was launched upon me on the day. A couple of the important ones that came up was, one is they're still reviewing the Residential Tenancy Act, and there are a few things that have been tabled which really aren't the benefit to anyone, that being landlords or tenants, because both what they're proposing may incur costs. Now, rather than going into all that sort of stuff, the challenge we've got currently with our government is that because it's so well stacked to one side, that they're just about getting anything through. And an example of that soon, and this is worth investigating for those who would like to know, they are talking about another search that we have to do on properties once they're sold, in that if the block is over 1,100 square metres. Apparently it has been passed by Labor through, probably it sounds like the lower house, so it's still got a while to go. Real Estate Institute of WA is questioning some of the outcome. It's a byproduct of the Rio situation, where obviously they destroyed a lot of Indigenous history and things. So now they're talking about having a clearance or a form of clearance certificate per property, any property in West Australia that's over 1,100 square metres to have, I don't know the exact terminology, but basically it's an Indigenous cultural clearance to that property. So if you own a property, for example, in Darlington or any of those areas, you would need this certificate of clearance. Now, Labor are pushing this at the moment, so the state government is in a pretty powerful position to do that. We, as an industry, understand that there has been some major things go wrong, and that doesn't mean what Rio did was right, but I think we've also got to be careful on how this is exercised and going forward. So one would have thought that if it was in the country areas or other areas of new development, etc., this may not be the part, but they're saying that any property over 1,100 square metres may have some heritage to it, and we may have to pay for a certificate to show that it doesn't. So another add-on cost to selling. Hopefully it doesn't go through. Hopefully it goes through amended. I'm not saying not to go through, but amended, because obviously that's a considerable cost to sellers. And many of us will be trying to work out the justification for it. I understand it. I understand what happened at Rio, but I think, to imagine that I've got a property in Greenmount, for example, and all of a sudden I'm having to do these things and the house is 50 years old, etc. So it's an interesting one, certainly one I don't want to debate, but I'm trying to work out whether it's been passed, what I would say, fairly, because you really have only one side of the government speaking about this and passing it as they wish. The other thing is the Residential Tenancy Act. There is a whole pile of crazy things being tabled at the moment. As I mentioned earlier, I will give you more details at a later stage, but it is worth looking at some of the stuff the government is attempting to put through. Now, as a landlord, it will certainly concern you, and as a tenant, it will concern you, because some of the things that they're talking about will add additional costs, because what will happen, it will drive rents up even further to compensate the owners, and all of a sudden we will have rents through the roof and it will be ridiculous. So people say, oh, the rents are getting high now. They're only returning to where they were, but if we're to add more again because of government red tape, this could be a problem in itself. So, if you're getting a chance, just dig around, see some of the stuff that's getting mentioned in Parliament and what they're attempting to pass, and identify it and speak up. And hopefully some of that will slow down. Now, just locally, congratulations to the Midland and District Historic Society, who recently were we were able to change some of the old rail line that was here, and now conducted a ceremony outside the Centre Point Shopping Centre, the corner of Helena Street and Grayson Highway. It is something from what they call the Midland Railway Company, so it's line secured from there. I'm not the greatest historian, but well done to the guys. Obviously a lot of hard work's gone to that, so Matt and the team, well done, and certainly in a prominent place, and if you get a chance to have a look at it, it's good to see people. We do have people in our local area working, trying to protect the history of our area, and obviously Midland has a deep history concerning the railways. Overall, real estate we're finding still very, very busy. Probably inquiries quite strong. Properties coming to market are slow, and I think that's a challenge for every real estate agent in Western Australia, but it's also a challenge for the buyers because they have a shortage of choice, and this trend has been around for a while. Getting back to the meeting that I was with Reba, they're forecasting that this market will continue for a couple of years. Their major concerns really are this Residential Tenancy Act and the other certificate that I spoke about earlier. But on the horizon, they believe that many of the builders won't be able to deliver homes in the time of constructions within 2 years. So we're going to have this backlog of, or a bottleneck, if you like, for some time, and this looks like it'll continue for a while. The only real concern, and we go back to what I discussed before, if the government starts implementing some of these thoughts that they have, it may cause a shortage for rentals. And that in itself is going to be a problem, because then the rental shortage becomes a government problem, and that means the government's got to pay for it, and it's going to kill a lot of investment in real estate. But again, this seems to be a bit of a thing that pops up every few years, but particularly when a government's in such power, they tend to be more reactive and seem to try to instigate things that probably aren't thought through as well as they could. But once again, that's my thoughts. That's the thoughts of our industry. But I thought I'd just give you a bit of an update. Hopefully that was useful. Look forward to speaking to you again soon. In the meantime, check out realestateplus.com.au.